I have an attribute for myself, so it's understandable.
So
my mama ain't never going to call me nothing different than what she named me. So
right on. His mama called him. His mama named him Clay. She gonna call him Clay.
and that's going to be the end of it. I wouldn't even dare even try because I know better. So I just I let it go.
Yes,
and
indeed.
it's my father's name, so there's no way. So I just let it.
But share with us that process. Why did you decide to change up?
I just wanted to get away from all of just the institutional racism, and I felt like our names is a part of it. So I don't know for sure if my last name was a slave master's last name, but I wanted to have something that represents who I am. And as I become more conscious and more African-centered, I want something that speaks more to that, speaks more to my spirit, as opposed to just a name that I was given that I didn't even choose myself.
Right. Well, this is something that we've seen time and again within our culture, people deciding to name themselves, just trying to separate themselves from the history of how many of us were named, obviously not in any way to take away from the honor of being named for your father, but just to say, hey, you know what, I want to take control over how I am perceived and how I am named. And names really become the first thing, one of the first things taken away from us when we came here. How did you get into using your platform as a means to empower Black people?
Well, I was already doing it. So before Facebook had a live or any of those things, I was already in the streets. You know, I would show up at murder scenes and all kinds of stuff, and I would be out there with my speakers and my microphone. So it's something I've always done. So once Facebook and social media began to have the live features, it's like, well, this is a way for me to be able to get my message out to more than just the people that are in Philadelphia or wherever I am at the time. I can speak to people all across the world, you know, so that's how I ended up taking what I was already doing viral.
So share with us what's at the core of what drives you. Like, what is the message that you are trying to get across to us as a people?
Well, the core to everything I do is independence. You know, we are dependent on the people who have been oppressing us for everything. So every message that I give, and sometimes it's a little controversial, most times it's uncomfortable because we're used to it. So at the core of everything is getting us to a mindset where whatever Black people need to be providing. And we should not be going to other people for anything, because if they own it, then they can always take it from us, you know? So like I did a video talking about the whole healthcare thing. Like, well, we need to have our own healthcare as opposed to depending on somebody else, and then we're scared that they're going to repeal it. You know, but when I did a video on it, was so many folks who were uncomfortable because they like, well, how are we going to do it? It's like, if they did it, why can't we?
Well, it actually comes from, you know, the Black Panthers did a lot of health care and provided testing, provided a lot of different things, but not just the Black Panthers, but that also was something that happened during several different movements throughout the United States during our lifetime. Obviously, prior to that, that has happened before also. People just kind of taking control of their own destiny.
That's it. That's it. See, the independence is about that. It's taking control of your past, your present, and your future. Right now, everything about us is dictated by somebody else. Who we are, our names, what we think. We get programmed to believe certain things, even if those things are against our own best self-interest. And then we'll fight somebody. I heard someone say it's easier to fool somebody than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. And that's what we deal with every single day. Folks have believed lies and will fight you tooth and nail when you bring them the truth.
Well, you told us a lot about the social media activism that you're utilizing these platforms and things, but as I introduced you, I mentioned that you're an author and you've written 6 books. For those of the people out there watching and the people in the audience who may not be familiar with your material, tell us a little bit about the theme of the books that you've written.
Okay, well, my first book I wrote is titled Come Out of Your Tomb. It's a book I wrote from a Bible story, The Demoniac in the Tomb. In 2010, I was a preacher, and I was struggling with the identity crisis. You
said you were a preacher?
I still am. Yeah, I still am. So my consciousness does not conflict with my faith at all. In fact, my faith pushes me to my consciousness. So I was having an identity crisis because prior into my life, I tore these South Philly streets up. I was a very ignorant and community-destroying individual. And as I transitioned, I never properly dealt with the things that drove me to do what I was doing. And in 2010, I preached a message, Jesus, get this out of me. I was reading The Demoniac in the Tomb, and it says that every night he was crying and cutting himself. And I identified with it. I said, I don't really want to be what's inside of me. And so I wrote that book as from that message to help people to identify those things that had you in your tomb and lead you from the tomb to being clothed and in your right mind. And then I transitioned to transformational growth. Again, as someone who has completely transformed my life, I wrote the 4 phases of transformation. So that's chronicling the phases of how I actually did what I did. Then I moved onto Broken Pillars. I'm a counselor of men. And for some time, I had a lot of men coming to me with relationship issues who were totally in love with their wives and their girlfriends. But as I listened to what they were talking about, I could see that they were destroying their own relationships, even though they loved the women that they were with. But the other common theme between all of the men was they were all broken. They all had some things that they never dealt with. And that was causing them to destroy their own relationships. So I wrote the book Broken Pillars, understanding the men supporting the weight of their families without dealing with their own brokenness, in order for us to deal with the root causes of some of the things that men do that drive their women crazy. Then I moved on to The Great Hijack. From there, I went to the 6 A's of Manhood for African American men. I wrote that book to combat the negative imagery of black men. And so many young guys grow up looking at Scarface or The Wire and all of these different things, and it's nothing that they can grab or nothing that is accessible to them that they can grab to truly show them what does it mean to be a black man? What does it really mean to be an African man? And so I wrote that book in order to do that. Then we moved on to The Great Hijack, the stealing of the black talented 10th through a system of self-hate. And that book is chronicling how they use education, entertainment, news in order to instill self-hate in us subconsciously that we don't even understand sometimes, or that we don't even recognize. So it really chronicles how they did it in order for us to say, oh, or I need to change certain things because this is why I feel the way I feel about myself and my people. And last but not least, the book, my most recent book, Love Your Naked Self, was a book I wrote as a man identifying how I and men like me have sowed negative seeds into the minds of black women to give them a negative self-image of themselves and make them want to wear weave, or make some of them want to have light contacts or be lighter, or, you know, all these different things, fake butts and everything. So I wanted to write this book to dig up those negative seeds that black men have sown into the minds of black women and plant some positive seeds so they're no longer feeling like they have to cover, but they can love their naked selves.
Great.
You mentioned lots of really, really good subject matters of these books. You mentioned, I'm going to mention 2 things, go back to 2 of the different subject matters. The first one was you talked about imaging and entertainment and television marketing and things of that nature. And you mentioned a little earlier about a book that made a big influence on you that was written by a very prominent figure in black marketing and advertising. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, the book is called Brainwash. It's by Tom Morell. As you said, he's a marketer. And he opens the book. It's almost, I don't know how to say it, but he opens the book basically saying, what was done to us was brilliant. It was brilliant marketing that we bought into. But here's how they did it, and here's how we can subvert it. So we can change it if we recognize exactly what the marketing is through different areas. I haven't read the book in a while, so I can't break down each chapter. It's a really long book. It's about 400 pages, but I believe it's a must read. You know, as I have my men's group, I made every black man that was in the group read the book. That and the post-traumatic slave syndrome, everybody that's connected to me has to read these books.
Required reading.
Required reading, yeah, because with certain things, if you don't understand how you have been attacked, you can't properly fight with me.
So, and then going back to the book that you wrote about counseling when you began to counsel black men, yes. How do you feel about, there's a term that's been floating around called toxic masculinity. How do you feel about that? And typically, it's considered socialization amongst men that makes them view themselves a certain kind of way that then makes them respond in a negative way that then eventually then affects women in a negative way. So what do you feel about that?
I feel that toxic masculinity is a such thing. However, what's promoted is propaganda to tone the black man down. So whenever they talk about propaganda, they don't deal with the issues that's in my book. Whenever they talk about toxic masculinity, they talk about black men being warrior class men. So if you are too assertive, if you are willing to stand up for your people, if you're willing to fight, you're a toxic man. They're not dealing with the fact that from the time a boy is 3 years old, that he's taught not to cry, and how that messes up his chemical hormones in his body because he never gets the release. That's toxic masculinity, but they don't talk about that. It's always about a black man being assertive, and whenever you assert yourself, all of a sudden that's toxic. So I believe that toxic masculinity exists, but not from the form that I'm seeing promoted. Now, I don't know what everybody is saying about it, but for what I see, it's always an idea of making sure the black man ain't gonna stand up and fight for himself.
Do you think that it's possible to have that discussion in terms of, like, from a woman's standpoint? You know, many times we find it difficult to discuss issues concerning women with women of other cultures, namely white women, because we are also black women. So in this issue of toxic masculinity, do you feel it is difficult to discuss men and those things that are toxic and not get it mixed in with racism at the same time? Is that a conversation that just black women and black men should have together?
I'm a black nationalist, so I don't conversations are only between black people with me. I don't engage in any dialogue with non-black people about black issues at all.
Wow. Clap it up. You attack a lot of issues and things that are sometimes uncomfortable to other black folks for whatever reason. And just recently on your social media, you were going on about the Black Panther movie. Yes. And it's something that I actually kind of I identify with, and I also kind of think is somewhat is true, that it seems like there's this marketing campaign to make black people feel like they have to support the Black Panther movie. And
they're doing a great job of it.
And they are doing a great job, and you know, I'm going to see the film, and I want to see the film, and I want to support those actors and everything, but I was concerned that to this generation that somehow it feels like it's putting the Black Panther film ahead of the Black Panther movement. And so that then later on in life, that's what you will identify the Black Panthers with, and your subconscious is this film rather than the actual work that was done by the Black Panther movement. Tell us about, you know, why you decided to attack that.
First, did you see how I got attacked when I said that?
Yeah, I see how you get attacked, and that's why I said
don't let the movie make you forget the movement.
Right.
They went crazy on me.
Right.
My thing with the Black Panther movie is not about the Black Panther movie. Everything that I deal with is about principle, and certain things are just my point of departure. Mm-hmm. So if it's something that I can see that already has your attention, and I can use that in order to show you a larger issue, then that's what I'm going to do. So with the Black Panther movie, it's like people are saying that this movie is the best representation and it's black empowerment, and I'm like, well, how can Hollywood, that you already believe is racist, all of a sudden make movies that are for your best representation without any kind of subliminal messages in it? So my issue wasn't going to see the movie or promoting or supporting the movie. My only thing in my video I was saying was, make sure when you watch it, you're looking for the subtle things that might be thrown in there. You know, like the fact that he's considered a genius, but he studied in Europe. You got to watch stuff like that. So that's showing, yeah, you can be a great African and have a great African kingdom, but you better learn from Europeans. So all I was saying was, make sure when you're watching it, you're watching with a critical eye, so you don't allow them to sow things into your subconscious, like Tom Burrell talks in his book, Brainwash, because we don't understand the power of the subconscious, many of us, because we haven't studied any psychology. So people can throw different things in your mind, and you don't even understand why you feel the way you feel. I took a class one time, and they were talking about how red makes you hungry, psychology, the colors. And they said Wendy's has red in it, McDonald's has red in it, Burger King has red in it, Checkers has red in it, and you wonder why every time you ride by you get hungry. So there's a psychology to everything in your subconscious, but if you don't understand that, then you're subject to whatever they're doing. So I just wanted people to, not that I didn't want them to watch the movie, but watch it with a critical eye, and don't ever think that the people who are against you are making anything for you.
Well, today's show is the power of the spoken word, and you're utilizing your voice, you know, and very similarly to a poet. So I just wanted to know.
I got a poem too, you know. If I get a chance
you want to drop a poem on us?
Yeah, I'll drop a poem.
All right, go ahead, drop a poem on us, brother.
Right now? Right, okay.
I mean, right now.
Right
no
now.
time better than the present.
Definitely. So can I stand up for the crowd? Because
You can stand up. You can perform this poem.
All right, so this poem is a part of my new book, Love Your Naked Self, and this is it's titled, Dear Black Women, I Apologize. Dear black women, I apologize for every time I enjoyed your body, then labeled you a whore for letting me enjoy your body. For knowing you wanted more than just my body, but I led you on because all I really wanted was your body. I apologize for calling you bitches and for being a real bitch because I was silent when other men were calling you bitches. I apologize for not standing up and being man enough to stand betwixt you and the world when they hammers bust with bullets loaded with negative images of you, and instead of being your shield, I threw bullets too. I'm sorry. And that's not an apology. I'm admitting I was sorry. I apologize for believing the fallacies that come from toxic male ideologies that I can be all that I can be, but you bet not step your ass out that kitchen. I apologize for becoming our division. You were supposed to be my addition, but instead I made us divided. I apologize for degrading your natural hair or for you not being able to walk near me without receiving a lustful stare. I apologize for not saying excuse me until you walk past and I got a good chance to look at your ass. As if your butt wasn't big enough, you were nothing but trash. I apologize for leaving my children and for leaving you to deal with the white man's glass ceiling. I apologize for leaving you unprotected in this world and for not being your protectors but becoming your predators. I apologize for inviting you over just to chill, knowing I was going to try to get a feel. And if shit got hectic, it was going to get real. I apologize for being your uncle in that back room and for taking your innocence when you were still supposed to be watching cartoons. I apologize for every time I cheated, for making you feel defeated, for every time I disrespected you, for disconnecting you, for every time I lied and made you think you was crazy, for walking out on our marriage to go deal with a baby. I've done so much wrong, I don't know how you could ever take me back. But we need each other, so I'm going to take the first steps to heal, exposing all the evil so I can keep it real. Now, don't you get it twisted. Everything I recited is not me. But if you never got one from a black man, this is my apology. I apologize.
Nice. You're a man of many talents, brother. When did the activism bug really hit you, though?
Third grade, Miss Moser.
Third grade.
I had Miss Moser third and fourth grade. Miss Moser saw something in me. She saw me being a speaker. She said, third grade, you're going to be like Martin Luther King. And she made me recite the I Have a Dream speech every year. But the seeds that she sowed in me at that young age, if you're a teacher, listen here, you never know what you put inside of the youth, because I'm 36 years old now. But whenever anybody asks me that question, my answer is always, in third grade, Miss Moser was teaching us Swahili and all of these different things. And she was beating us with rulers too, but you know.
Beating some sense into you.
Yeah.
Some of these kids still need that.
So that started it. And I just always been somebody that's for my people. I've always been a very loving person, even though sometimes my love was in the wrong ways, because I would give people what I had, and sometimes what I had wasn't the right thing. So I just always been somebody that was for the people. I just learned how to use all of my giftedness for good as opposed to using it for evil, as I did for many years.
What do you see happening for black people 10 years from now?
I think in 10 years from now, we're really, really, really going to be further than we are right now. I can't really speak on some of the things that I have going on, or people that I'm working with, but there's a lot of stuff going on underground that many people don't know about. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are waking up, even folks, sometimes I have somebody that will cuss me all the way out, and then they'll go through my page so they can find more stuff to cuss me out about. But the more they go through my page and see certain things, they end up inboxing me and apologizing. So people are waking up, even though the message might be hard sometimes, it might hit them and knock them down. But so many folks are waking up. So many folks are reaching out to me, and a lot of people that I know across the country. And I think in 10 years from now, we're going to be in a good space.
Good. Now you have your own show that you're about to start here in Philadelphia.
Yes,
in just a couple of days. Tell us a little bit about the show and
the
what we
show
can expect from it.
The show that I'm starting is called Shh, You Can't Talk About That in the Black Community. It's a theme that I've been doing for a while. In fact, the last one I did, we dealt with rape and molestation in the home. So as somebody who's just not afraid, and I'm fearless, so I don't care how people respond, I will deal with any issue, the issues that people want to sweep under the rug, the things that don't nobody want to talk about, the stuff that people get uncomfortable about. I'm like today on the episode because I'm not afraid, because we have to talk about certain stuff. We cannot, what Jay-Z said in this line everybody was quoting, you can't heal what you don't reveal. And we've hid so much stuff. So with the show, we're going to be tackling everything. On the first episode is going to be we're going to be recording next Saturday. It's going to air next Monday, and we're going to be dealing with how the world makes black people feel less than.
Awesome. Well, look, man, we really appreciate you coming to the program today, and we will be looking out for the new show, and we can wish you continued success in all of the things that you're doing out here for the people, and we salute you, brother.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Give it up for B F Nkrumah.
Y'all give it up.
Shh, you can't talk about that in the black community. That's what it is.
Some things you can't talk about in no community. Shoot.
This is very true.
Lots of secrets going on around there.
This is very true.
We had Monifo on the show at the top of the year. She said something I thought was very profound. She said, "You're as sick as your secrets." So the idea here is that we have to purge ourselves from the conversations that we don't want to have, but we also have to be able to have those conversations with people who have very, very different opinions, because the black community is not monolithic. We all have very different opinions, and we need to be able to come together from all aspects of that to be able to talk about how we will move forward.
Yes.
Next up on the show,
I want to give a shout out to On the Mark Catering for catering the event this evening. Is everybody enjoying the food?
Was that food not delicious? Yes, indeed.
Food is great.
Yes, indeed.
Also, the Brandywine Workshop where we are today. We want to thank Alan Edmonds and Angela Edmonds and all of their cast and crew for helping us to make this a success.
We'd also like to mention the fact that where we are here at the